Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to What If Land this frosty morning. And here we have the aircraft that every fighter pilot, including those who flew it, was scared of in Vietnam. It even scared the Americans. It is, of course, Madagascar's finest fighter to ever enter service before the Gripen and the J-10 and the Su-30 and the FC-31 and possibly the F-4E, maybe the F-20. Okay, I digress. The Lightning is clearly the best aircraft ever made in the history of the world, except for the Starfighter and possibly the MiG-21. But anyway, I keep getting sidetracked. I absolutely love the Lightning. I think it's a superb piece of engineering. It's just such a shame that the British aircraft industry died in the 60s and 70s and these weren't upgraded. Fabulous aircraft, from what I've heard, quite a high attrition rate, but everyone loves the Lightning. Now, of course, Madagascar, What If Land, got the Lightning and experimented with them and the Starfighters. They took them to Vietnam, where they were very successful, shooting down a large number of MiGs and protecting aircraft. This is the Airfix F2A kit. There's a reason the Madagascans got the F2A, and the reason they got the F2A is because it had the big belly tank, rectifying one of the earlier deficiencies. Now, I'll come on to the modifications I've made to this kit to get it ready for war shortly. It is, of course, in flying condition. I've got another 4 of these to build. And you'll all say, well, the Lightning in Vietnam would have been an absolute joke. It would have had no range. Well, I want to bust that concept open, and I'm going to do that with a little bit of paper. So I believe that the range debate is a complete red herring. Sure, a Lightning unrefueled would have been able to defend the end of its airfield. However, there was something which made a big difference in Vietnam and every air operation since. And I want you to think about a F-105 Thunder Chief or an F-4 Phantom or even an F-100 Super Sabre. And I want you to ask yourself how far that would get when it was carrying this little lot and what the range would have been. Well, the key to sustaining all jet operations, Vietnam and post-Vietnam, is aerial refuelling. Aircraft will take off with a payload of weapons and a small load of fuel, and then they will refuel from the KC-135s or the KC-10 extenders, and now the new ones which are entering service. The other reason why I think that the Lightning would have been a good aircraft is people say, well, it doesn't have a good radar. And I refer you to the EC-121, the early development of AWACS. Now, your aircraft, a Lightning, yes, it's got a small radar. However, the situational awareness for the Madagascans and the Americans was being provided by the EC-121. So therefore, that is less of a disabilitating factor than it might first seem. The next thing I'm going to refer to is the rules of engagement. So if we look at the Vietnam Air War and we say, okay, so why was the Sparrow not as successful? Why were the Phantoms handicapped initially? Well, one of the things was the rules of engagement. So it essentially made the fight a within visual range fight until the development of decent IFF, interrogation friend and foe systems. Before 1972, you were looking at having to close in to identify the target, very strict rules of engagement. That put you immediately within visual range, which was a disadvantage for most aircraft like the Phantom. Not so for aircraft that could turn like the Gloucester Javelin, and not so in the Madagascar What If case for aircraft that could turn and burn like the Frightening. So if you got within range of a Frightening, I believe that you were likely to come out worse off rather than better off, which wasn't the case for the early F4s, especially the ones which didn't have the cannons. Although whether the cannon was better than the AIM-9D is a whole separate debate I won't go into. So here is the concept for Lightning operations over North Vietnam. They start off at the Thailand Air Force bases. They climb up to the tanker circuit and refuel as many times as they need to from the KC-135s. Radar and situational awareness is provided by the EC-121 and the Combat Crown Piraz destroyers and cruisers off the coast of North Vietnam. They then fly their MiG-cap pattern, refueling as many times as they need to from their flight of 4 with the KC-135, giving them extended endurance and range. So that is how I believe the Lightning in the Madagascar What If Air Force would have been successful in Vietnam. You may have completely different opinions, more than welcome to hear them. This is completely what if and made up. Now, to actually make the Lightning a decent combat aircraft, the Lightning lacked radar warning receivers. So here, I've added some radar warning receivers at the front to give it some awareness of when it's being pinged. The biggest threat to the Lightning wouldn't have been the MiGs, it would have been the SAM systems. I've added some chaff and flare dispensers and some ECM antennae underneath at the back of the fuel tanks, and it will have a jamming pod on there. That is obviously a tail from another conversion that I've done. I've added a rear radar warning antenna on the tail as well, so slight sacrifice in speed for an overall gain in survivability. Let me know what you think. I'm going to get this painted. This is Lizzie the Lightning. And here is the operational concept. The key to the success is the KC-135 and the EC-121, both of which I need to build.